Insta. Tina might have got busy downstairs.
It's okay.
Let's see what I could use. We got plenty of big crystals around here.
Hello, everyone. Ooh, what you got there? Oh, she's propping up the Insta phone. Oh, that's a good frame.
Like that, right? Yeah, because I'll be right next to you.
Perfect. We're just setting up for our interview with Michelle of Stardust Blessings Metaphysical. Are you guys ready?
I wonder if you should have your phone so you can be on the live and just
Oh,
turn
I
the
should.
volume
I'm gonna
down.
grab it for me. It's right there.
And that way.
That's a good idea.
Hey guys.
Say hi to Michelle Scalpy.
It's been a long time since we started doing these.
Okay. You made it, Jessie J. Fabulous. Okay. So I have some questions. First of all, how are you?
I'm fabulous.
You're fabulous. So am I. This is great. Okay. So I'd love to start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents, your upbringing, kind of how you grew up, and if you feel like you were kind of born with the intentions and gifts, or if you think they came later in life.
They definitely came from the beginning.
Oh, they did?
I always had a voice in my head that talked to me all the time. If I got upset, I can remember very, very young age when I was upset, something inside me would calm me down, show me even visions of just stuff calming to get me to calm down.
Really?
I was like a loner when I was a kid. Didn't like to be around a lot of people. I liked to be out in the woods. It was an imaginary wolf, but that was my totem. That's been with me my whole life.
Really?
And always protected me. There was a really cool spot out in the woods, and it was something you would see off a movie where all the trees were very viney, and you couldn't see the sky. It was very dark going through it. And in the middle, there was this spot where there was sun that came down through this opening in the trees, and there was moss and grass and a huge rock, and it was like that was my spot.
That was physically in your backyard area?
It was in the woods behind our house.
Oh, wow.
And nobody knew about it. Like, I never saw any of the other kids in the neighborhood or my brother in that space. I knew how to get to it.
Wow.
And nobody ever went in there because it was like you walk through cobwebs and everything to get
deep
there.
in the woods?
Yeah, it was like this really deep spot in the woods.
Where did you grow up? Was it in Connecticut?
I was born in Cold Spring, New York, which was it was a small, quaint town. Everybody knew everybody. My parents owned restaurants and bars there.
Oh, nice.
And I was there till first grade. And then we moved out to Poquake, New York, which was in the middle of nowhere. And when we first got out there, it was like shell shock, because we went from being in this, kind of little village area where you could go anywhere, everybody was a stone's throw away, and we moved out into the country where it was cows and farms and nothing to do. It's like our house is like in the middle of nowhere.
How long did it take you to get into town from your second house?
We used to have to go grocery shopping once a week with my mother, and it took 35 minutes to get down to where we went shopping.
Wow. So you had a lot of property in the first home you were in? Yeah.
Well, we lived above the restaurant in Cold Spring.
Okay.
And then when we moved out there, we had 10 acres.
Oh my goodness, 10 acres.
My mother moved again when I was about 12, but I went to live with my father. Mm-hmm. And she bought another 10 acres with this 3-story log cabin.
Oh my goodness.
So, and it actually butted up against Eddie Murphy's property.
No way.
Yeah.
In New York?
Yeah, his kids always rode horses. We were butted, like our field, you could look out the back of our field, and there was just a fence line, and they were always on the other side at the barn.
Was that like public knowledge? Did everyone know?
Not really. That was Eddie Murphy's hiding place. He had a helicopter pad there.
No way.
When he got in trouble, he was there
What?
all the time.
He got in trouble? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he got in trouble, and 80s,
The
sometime in the
80s?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into that. Well, so how old do you think you were when you realized that you had these gifts and these kind of
I never
intuitions?
realized that they were gifts. I
Okay.
thought it was normal
Okay, that makes
because I
sense.
grew up that way.
Mhm.
My grandmother was my heart and soul.
Oh.
My grandmother was she was everything to me. Like she died when I was 15, and that's when I spiraled. My mother, we were talking about my mom.
Yeah.
I was an accident. My father was gay, and at that time it was not accepted. So he tried to fit in, and be normal.
Oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
he married my mother. And if you talk to him, well, why'd you marry mommy? Because they hated each other. Like as we grew older, and he's like, well, your mother was a catch. She was beautiful, and her family was all over the place. Everybody knew them. And if you ask my mother the same thing, oh, your father was a catch. He worked hard. His family was into businesses and things like that. So both of them looked at each other as just a lifestyle.
Mhm.
I don't think there was ever, I don't know if they were ever actually in love,
Right.
but they had like a War of the Roses divorce.
Mm.
But when I was born, my mother wanted to leave my father. He was a very horrible drunk. He was a beautiful soul when he was sober. He was one of the most generous people you ever wanted to meet. He would do anything for anybody, but when he was drunk, he was the exact opposite. It was like a demon was in him when he was drunk.
Wow.
His eyes used to turn black.
Really?
Oh yeah. Me and my brother used to call it shark eye. If my father came home drunk, my brother would come over and say, Daddy's got a shark eye. Stay away from him.
Like the whites or just the...
His whole, his color, and he had blue eyes.
Yeah.
And they would turn
Oh,
black.
wow.
His eyes would literally turn black.
Do you think there's any connection between the gifts that you came to realize that you had and that kind of look in your father's eyes when he was not of his conscious self?
I think, now looking back from what I know now, I think it taught me that love is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I loved my father. We were separated from, he left, I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, and I didn't see him again until I was just turned 11.
He left the household?
Well, yeah, my parents got divorced. They had this horrible divorce.
You were that
like I was saying, I was an accident.
Yeah.
My mother was ready to leave. My father came home drunk, and they never had sex because my father was gay. My mother used to tease all the time and say, we had sex twice, your brother and you.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
he came home drunk one night. They did it.
They did it, and then
here I came.
There you are. Well, that was a nice little blessing for all of us. So, so it's interesting. Did you maintain a relationship with your parents as you grew older, and the gifts were becoming manifesting and maybe becoming stronger? Or at what age did you maybe tell your parents, if at any age, that you had these kinds of gifts?
I never really discussed that with my parents.
Okay.
My mother and there was a resentment there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was born, and it kind of
Yeah.
trapped her in that marriage for a little while.
Yeah.
So, even as a kid, and I think more so when they're kids, that's why people need to understand their actions and emotions around their children impact them like nothing else ever will. You can say something all you want, but if you're saying one thing and doing another, the child is going to follow what they're seeing, the action.
The actions.
Words don't mean anything. Actions are always it. So my mother had this resentment. She treated me very different than the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have known, because I was born after I had 2 older brothers, and my oldest brother is from my mother's first marriage. And she married my father. And so she was just very different with me. She was not cuddly. She was very cold. And then when she had my younger sister on her 3rd marriage, I saw a different part of her, which I never got to experience, which caused so much resentment. Because it's one thing if that's your mom and that's just the way she is.
Yeah.
It's another thing when it feels pointed more at you.
Right.
So I clung to my grandmother.
Is that your mom's mom or your dad's mom?
My grandmother was that I was close to was my mom's mom,
Okay.
and she spoiled me and showered me with love. She did with all the grandchildren, but she was different with me than she was with them. Like, I went to church with her all the time, and you know, she let me ask questions. Like, if my brother questioned what the priest said, my grandmother would say, because the priest said it, and that's the way it is, and blah blah blah. If I asked her a question, she would sit down and explain things to me. And I think it was because my brother was being sarcastic, probably, and I was being genuine. Like, I would hear something, you know, and I didn't understand, well, if God is unconditional and he's always going to forgive me, you know, then why is this wrath God? There was like two different gods, and I recognized that when I was like 5.
Oh, yeah.
We would go to church one time, and God was all great and loving and forgiving, and we go to church the next time, and it was this wrathful God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely fair. Let's see. Okay, so from Cody, we have a question. When did you get the calling to do what you do?
This, well, when my grandmother died when I was 15, I went on the spiral, and I got into very dark. Inside my mind, the voice in my mind didn't disappear, but there was another one.
Oh.
And I got very dark, and I wanted to die. I didn't give a shit. It was just a very, very dark time. And then, that was at 15, I started getting into drugs. And, you know, like I smoked pot, but that was like nothing. I wasn't really a big pot smoker because I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
I felt very dumbed down, and my brain goes all the time, so I like that intellectual part of me that analyzes everything, and I couldn't do that when I was smoking pot for some reason. So I got into cocaine, and it was a hell of a ride.
How long did that last?
Years. I stopped. There was a couple times off and on. When I decided I wanted a child, I stopped immediately and didn't touch anything while I was pregnant. And it was so weird because people that knew me that I partied with, they were like, you can't just stop like that. And it was like, nope, I'm not the kid. And that was like a dream of mine to have a baby girl, and that's what I got.
Yeah.
But I went through, it was ups and downs. A lot of trauma type things had happened. And when I was in my late 30s, I got very sick, and I had very lucrative jobs. I was a engineer and welder, and I always had work. I had my own business, and I worked for other people. I worked for Orange County Choppers, building motorcycles.
I must have loved that.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun ride. But I always had my side gig. I had my own rig to go out and do things. And I also bartended at this little biker bar in Fishkill, New York. And just the money was really good. I wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
So it was all cash. So don't tell the IRS.
No, we won't tell anybody. Secret's safe with us.
But I made really good money, and then I ended up getting sick, and I got sicker and sicker, and I was not into going to doctors at the time. I would party more to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
And I just got up and I went to work, and it was just going through the motions, and it finally got to a point where my kidneys started shutting down. I would spike into these fevers of 104, 105. I get rushed to the hospital. By the time I got to the hospital, everything was fine. So they had no idea what was going on for a while. This was like an on and off thing. And it turned out through this, I lost my career. I had to sell my rig. I had to sell everything to survive. And I was basically at about as low a point. I had to leave bars. I couldn't work anymore. That's how sick. And for me not to work, anybody that knows me, I work.
Yeah.
I go from morning till night. I like to do things, and I like to stay busy. So for me to have to lay in bed and I can't move because I'm so sick, it was just like, you might as well have killed me at the time.
I know, right? So is that from drug use and illness combined, or just the illness at that point?
It was the illness more than anything, and like I said, I was doing drugs to try to make myself feel better. It was the only time I was numb to not, feel like that. And I'm sure the drugs were making the conditions worse. And it took 2 years of going to doctors, and they finally, the right doctor at the right time. And it was something that was fairly simple, but it was a 1 in millions. It was endometriosis, but it was actually fatal.
Oh.
I had a cyst a few years prior, and the cyst grew where my fallopian tube meets my uterus, and it burst. Oh. And when that bursts, it ripped part of the fallopian tube off. So then when I was producing the endometriosis in my body, which is normal, it came out of the uterus. It started to suffocate all my organs. And over this time, it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And, by the time they figured out what it was, I could barely walk. My skin was gray. It was basically suffocating all my organs to where I was dying. That's why the kidneys were going on and off.
Yeah.
My liver wasn't working properly. My digestive system was a mess. Urinary tract, everything was a mess.
Yeah.
So the doctor had told me it'd be a 35-minute surgery. I went in, it was 4.5 hours. I was in surgery. When they opened me up, it was so bad that they had to cauterize and burn it all off.
Oh, wow.
And they had to remove the ovary because they had no idea that happened.
Oh, they found out when
they found out when they opened me.
So what did they think it was before they opened you?
They realized that there was a cyst. Once they got in there, they could see everything. They could see the scar tissue. They could see what happened. And there was a cyst that had ruptured. And I was rushed to the hospital, thought my appendix burst.
Oh.
And the doctor, the nice doctor in the ER, basically told me I was on drugs. I was there to get drugs.
Like drugs.
When I tell you the pain, like I would pop out 10 babies back to back before I ever dealt with that pain again.
Ooh.
It felt like somebody took a knife, went into my stomach, and just was going like this back and forth, and it wasn't stopping and letting up. So the doctors were not nice, and they could have figured it out then, but they didn't, because they just thought it was somebody coming in that wanted drugs, because they couldn't explain what was happening.
Common issue that goes on a lot with stigma. So
I'm not real big on doctors.
No, I know. I'm aware. So do you feel like that was your rock bottom, and then you had nowhere to go but up?
Yeah. I mean, I was after the surgery, I think was more where the rock bottom came in.
Okay.
At this point, I'm still doing drugs.
Okay.
And I don't even know where I had friends that were giving me stuff pretty much, because I was very generous with what I had over the years, and friends were doing it for me. And then it got to a point, I think my rock bottom was I had lost everything except for my truck and my motorcycle. The only 2 things I had left, and I refused to sell them. And I was like, I'll live in my truck if I have to, and I'm not getting rid of my motorcycle. There's just no way. So I ended up staying at my ex's house. Me and my ex, which is my daughter's other mother, we're still really good friends. We broke up, and we did have, the typical breakup crap go on, but both of us put our daughter first. And we're very good friends to this day. She took me in because I would have not been able to see my daughter or anything. So I ended up staying with her, and that's where I think the reality all hit. And then I realized that the recovery was 8 months because I had all internal stitches and surgery that went on, and that means no job. They told me I would probably not be able to go back to welding, which it took probably a good 5 years where I could lift stuff without pain inside.
Wow. Now you whip boxes of crystals around like nothing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was very depressing.
Yeah.
And I got into a dark place. So that whole surgery, and that was basically, I always say, the universe picked me up and threw my ass down and made me, sit still. And I wasn't a still person.
Yeah.
So when I was going through my recovery, I started reading, and I loved Nikola Tesla. And I always was attracted to him. And I was a welder, so I understood energy, and I understood transferring energy and electricity and things like that, because I was really like into my job, as far as the welding went. And I was fascinated by what he was doing, so I started reading all about Nikola Tesla. In that, I came across Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich is the one that invented and discovered orgone energy, which is what the products are that we have in the store and we sell on the lives. But that orgone, when I first started reading that, I'm like, that can't be.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, because I didn't really know the science. I read how he the recipe basically for it and the effects of it, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm a Virgo, so if it's not logical to me, because I don't know the information to make it logical, it didn't. Like, I was not into crystals. I thought, like my father was like, oh, mystical mojo, it doesn't mean anything. It's all in your mind kind of thing. And that's where I was at that point in my life. I was very methodical and logical about everything that I did. And this was not in my, like, at that time, it was not something that I would ever get into, because I thought it was just BS.
So at what age did you kind of feel that way about metaphysical health, and what age do you think you started shifting into believing more in that?
Well, when I got done with the surgery, I had been diagnosed with COPD, the beginning stages of emphysema between smoking and welding. And I was exposed to a lot of asbestos, a lot of lead paint, because I worked in a factory for 7 years. It was an old dye factory from the late 1800s, or late 1700s.
Wow.
In New York. And I redid all the staircases, beautiful staircases that were inside them, and fire escapes, and I did everything there, metal, put the roofs on. The building that we worked on was like the size of a football field.
Oh my goodness.
So I had all of these medical conditions, and I was on all these medications. I was always at the doctor, always. Like every month to 6 weeks, I was at my doctor's with some kind of respiratory problem, and he would give me medicine. So I was on a couple different medications for COPD. I was on a medication for pain, because I wrecked my back. I'd broken so many bones, or fractured or tore ligaments while I was working. Accident after accident while I was working. And even growing up, like, we drove motorcycles in the woods all the time. We were crashing into each other and into things. So I always had all these injuries, which turned into arthritis. I was on arthritis medication and then the high blood pressure medication. I was on 2 different types of high blood pressure medication because I was high strung. I was on drugs. I was drinking all the time. Like, I got up in the morning and I drank. I would have my flask, my coffee always had Jameson Irish whiskey in it. I was never without alcohol back then. So, going through all of that to get to here, it was like, it's hard to explain the transition, because I just kind of woke up one day and I was like, I don't want this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, I don't want to be drunk. I don't want to feel hungover anymore. I don't want any of this anymore. And it was very instant for me.
Okay.
And I started changing, like, diet and things like that. And the more I started changing things, the better I started feeling. The orgone I got into, I wanted to make the orgone. I had no money at this time. You have to understand, I was living in my ex's basement, which was unfinished, and I do construction work, so I had a bunch of my friends come over and we built a couple rooms down there, so I had somewhere private. So Tina and I got back together at this point. This was in 2012.
Is that while you were living in your ex's basement?
Yeah. Yep. She came to house sit for my ex, because we were all friends.
Cool.
So she came over and we ended up reconnecting and got back together while I was at my lowest point I ever was in my life. And then I wanted to do this orgone stuff. I had zero. I didn't have enough money to eat. If it wasn't for Tina and my ex giving me food, I wouldn't have ate. And most of the time I was too prideful to even ask for food, because I didn't like that I couldn't afford my own food. So when I tell you rock bottom, if it wasn't for my ex taking me in, you know, I can't even tell you. Yeah, I would have been in my car, and that would have been it. But the organ, I read about it. I got interested in it, and out of the blue, somebody gifted me a piece of it because I didn't know if it really worked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But that logical side of me was still saying, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So they gifted me this piece of organ, which is in my office. I'll never get rid of it. It was the ugliest thing you ever see.
Really?
Yeah. But it was organ, and I took it and I wore it. And I got up the next day, and I realized, like, halfway through the day that I felt better, and I was actually doing things. Like, I didn't. I laid on the couch and cried all day. That's all I did.
Really?
I wanted to die. That's the state of mind that I was in, is I would pray for death every night before I went to bed. And I would just say, I want to go home. That was what I constantly said. I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. And I had that on. And I woke up the next morning and I realized that I was in a good mood, which I hadn't been in a good mood in a very long time at that point. Had no drugs in my system, wasn't drinking, and I was like, I had a really good day. And I just felt good today. I don't know why. And then I was getting undressed for bed, and I take the organ off, and I looked at it, and I was like, it can't be. It can't be this. There's no way this piece of plastic and metal on my neck is doing this. So Tina was not into anything really metaphysical. Tina went to church. Tina was a very logical person and just was not into any of this stuff. So she came over to the house, and I gave it to her, and I said, can you do me a favor? Can you wear this for the day? She had slept over that night and went to work in the morning. And I said, can you wear this for the day and just tell me if you feel anything off of it? And she goes, what is it? I said, I'm not going to tell you anything about it until you come home tonight. So she came home, and it happened to be her time of the month. She gets really bad cramps and stuff like that. And she came home, and I go, how'd you feel today? She goes, you know, it's funny you asked me. She said, I had no cramps today. I had no back pain today, and I was in a really good mood. And she goes, that's odd for this time of the month. And I was like, So then I told her what it was. Mm-hmm. And we were taking turns, like, wearing it and stuff. And I wanted to see if she took it and how I would start feeling and vice versa. So Tina ended up taking her tax return money and bought me everything. I sat on YouTube for hours and hours and hours learning how to make it. And I read all the Wilhelm Reich stuff and Don Croft and Dr. DeMayo, I think, is the other guy that's in the United States. And I just read and read and read on this stuff. And so she goes, I'll take my tax return and you can start making this if you want. And maybe you can start your, a little business for yourself and something you can work from the house and you can start to take care of yourself. Because she knew it was killing me not to work.
Right.
And I couldn't get around still. I was still fresh from surgery pretty much. This was like 3 months after surgery, but it was 8 months recovery. I mean, for 6 to 8 weeks I was in bed. I couldn't even move. So she went out and she bought all the stuff. I said, yeah, I could do it. I watched all this stuff. It's easy. And she brought all the stuff home, or she gave me the money. We went shopping. We brought all the stuff home, and she went to work in Connecticut. I was in New York. And she would leave for a couple days at a time and come back. So she came back a couple days later, and she goes, did you make the organ? And I go, we're not going to talk about it. I can't do it. I don't know what the secret is in those videos, because what I did, what they did, and I'm a mechanical person. I'm not stupid. I can figure things out. Couldn't figure out for the life of me. Everything was sticky. It was a mess. I had it in my hair. I had mass headaches from the epoxy. And I was like, I can't do this. So in typical Tina fashion, she said, Michelle, get your ass in that room and figure it out. I just spent my entire tax return, which I did not have the money due, to make this so you could do this. And of course I did. And it took me about a year to perfect it.
Wow.
There's a lot of little tricks. Mm-hmm. And it just even using a good epoxy. Like epoxy from, I don't know, Michael's or AC Moore.
Yeah.
And we just grabbed the epoxy that was there, and it's like the most horrible toxic crap that you ever
Gross.
want to buy. And that's why I was getting headaches. And come to find out, like later on with the Orgone, Orgone amplifies anything that you put in it. So you can't break the circuit. You have to encase things in it. But using a toxic epoxy is amplifying toxicity.
Makes sense.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Mm.
So if you go and buy the cheap crap epoxy, your Orgone is not going to be the same.
Oh.
And I can't tell you how many people have told me that Orgone doesn't work. It causes them anxiety, and it made them have bad dreams and all this stuff. And when people tell me that, I would gift them a peace of mind. I said, take this, you can gift it back to the earth, you can throw it in the garbage or whatever, just spend a week with it. And then come back and tell me that you had all this happen to you. And every single person I gave Orgone to. I even had somebody come on one of my business pages and go off about it. And I made him give me his address,
Like in a
and I
negative way?
sent him. Oh yeah,
Oh, wow.
telling me that it doesn't work, and all this bad stuff happened. And so once he got it, he couldn't believe it. He came back and he retracted everything he said. And he said, I can't believe how this makes me feel, and I can't believe you went out of your way to send it to me. And so I said, well, can I ask you questions now? And he said, yeah. And I said, when the Orgone that you were using that caused all the problems, was it clear or was it amber color? And he said it was amber. And I go, that was toxic. Like the clearer the epoxy, the less toxic it is.
Oh,
We
good to
use
know.
jewelry grade.
Oh, that's not surprising
Yeah.
at all.
So
So would that be so Dawn T had a question about your first crystal purchase, or was it whether it be gifted or you found it?
I would say that.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, because
So-
it has crystals in it.
Yeah.
So that was my introductory. Even though I wasn't even looking at it as a crystal at that time, there was quartz crystal in it.
Yeah.
So that that
Introduced
piece,
you into this.
that's what, yeah, the Wilhelm, like Tesla started
Yeah.
it, and then Wilhelm Reich, and I got obsessed. Like Tina and I went to Rangeley, Maine, and got to see his lab and where he lived and his
Wow.
artwork. I had no idea he was into art. I didn't know, like, we went through the whole museum and they tell you all about his life, and it's a fascinating life.
This is Tesla?
This is Wilhelm Reich.
Okay.
We went to his mausoleum. There's a picture of me, of course, sitting on top, hugging his headstone.
Wow. I gotta see that picture. That is so cool. So you did answer a lot of the questions that we had in as far as like how you got into it, the first crystal. How about the first physical mineral that you ever were attracted to or drawn to?
Fluorite was probably.
Fluorite.
I have a giant fluorite it's a giant fluorite point that actually Tina and Mark bought me for my birthday one year, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that's like, I love that stone, but fluorite I was attracted to from the get-go. Like when we actually started going to like a mineral show or something. I got into that because we started doing expos with the Orgone.
Yeah.
After about a year and getting it perfected and making stuff, we started doing like little street fairs, and then we got into the holistic stuff because we understood when we went to do the street fairs, nobody understood what Orgone was.
Yeah.
When you went and did like a holistic expo, people were open to it because it had crystals in it.
Makes sense.
And of course, you get to those expos and, you know, you have neighbors that are selling products or crystals, and there's a whole show of crystals. So I started to get like attracted to that kind of stuff. And then I wanted to know how they worked. And the one thing, I know somebody had asked about working with crystals, and sometimes it feels like they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand a crystal is a living thing. So the crystal doesn't work for you, it works with you. The crystal doesn't come into your life and say, hi, Michelle, I'm here to take away all your problems and help you. It's not there for that. It's not working for you. It's working with you, and that's when you invite it in to work with you. So, like, I have crystals on the table. Those crystals were handpicked by me today with the intention of each thing that I picked it for. So I asked the crystals, you know, help me with my throat chakra today, because sometimes even, you know, when we're doing lives, when we used to do informational lives all the time, but when I'm doing that, I can feel somebody's anxiety sometimes. It is one of the things that is one of my gifts, and I've had it happen with clients even more because it's a face-to-face, one-on-one thing. So I can feel anxiety from somebody. Sometimes I can feel depression, and it's distracting in my mind when we're talking about something. That's why you'll hear me ripped off onto something else sometimes, because I'm getting distracted by energy that's coming through.
Okay.
So I ask for my throat chakra to stay open, and for my concentration to, you know, I took one for concentration, one for protection. I always have quartz crystal for purification. Selenite's one of my favorites. It has to do with Archangel Michael, so I work with Michael a lot.
So these are the ones that you
yeah.
brought out for today. Can you walk us through which crystal is what and why you brought it out for yourself?
So this is blue banded agate. Blue banded agate is great for the throat chakra, and agate is it helps with anxiety and calming. So it's helping keeping that energy at bay for me, so I can concentrate on what I'm doing. Pyrite, that's for success, and the reason why I chose it for today, it's the success of explaining things and kicking off this series so I can help people. So that's what I want to be successful in, and that's why I'm into this. Like the crystal sales are great, and the abundance that has come from that to help me grow has been amazing. But the whole reason I started this shop and started doing the lives, we started doing informationals to teach people, because this place was manifested, which that's what we're going to talk about too and get into that. My mantra for this place when I built it, the first thing I did was hung a sign out in the hallway, and it says, "I intend to love all and exclude none." And I meant that. Like, I was to a place in my life where I meant that at that time. So this was about the success of helping people. Moss agate, one of my favorites. It's a grounding and healing stone. So it keeps me grounded because I do get very flighty. Tina's like my rock that keeps me grounded a lot of times. Amazonite, that's for keeping the throat chakra open. Sodalite's a calming stone and a throat chakra stone. So tourmaline, that is protection. Quartz crystals for purification. And this is a rainbow aura quartz, which is for purification. Again, it keeps the chakras aligned. It's good for connection.
Okay.
And this one jumped out at me. I thought it was something else in the bowl that I wanted. And I picked it up and realized it was this. And I said, "Do you want to come with me today?"
And
it said yes.
That's awesome.
So,
wow. And they're in the selenite bowl for charging.
Yep.
Very nice. That's a really pretty moon selenite bowl. I
love my moons.
Yeah, and this candle, do you have some things written here? You want to tell us about that?
So I did a candle. That's the sigil. It's the seal of the shields of the angels, the 7 angels, the main angels. Right. There's not just 7 of them. And then it says healing, awakening, protection, understanding, and success. And it's written, I write it in print, and then I always use script, because they call it cursive for a reason.
Okay. And
just like any art, cursive writing, you're setting your intention. Like, people think cursives are bad, and it's not about that.
I never made that connection.
Yeah. Spelling.
Oh! Mind blown.
Yeah.
Mind blown. Yeah.
When you're writing and you're spelling, you are spelling your intentions.
Wow.
That's what you're doing.
That's so
and
cool.
When you do it in cursive, it gives it more power. It's your unique. Everybody writes different. You know what I mean? Their cursive writing is different. And we could get into that one day on one of the lives about the reason why it was taken out of schools. Wow. It's a powerful tool. Okay. It's a very powerful tool.
Good to know. That's interesting.
And then I did a candle for success. I did a candle for love. I always put love in all my stuff.
Love that.
And silver is for protection. And then there's 3 white candles, which that one's just about done. But the 3 white candles, that's where I set my circle, and for it to be pure, purest intentions.
And what are these crystals here?
That is a pink Lemurian quartz.
Oh, pretty.
So that's set for love, fluorite.
Fluorite.
My fluorite.
That's your fluorite.
And Shaman Stone, which I am totally obsessed with Shaman Stone. It's like a world in there.
Yeah.
And if you get your hands on Shaman's Dream Quartz, there's Phantom. And sometimes they call the Shaman Stones Phantom.
Yeah.
But Shaman's has its own little world in it. Like, you can see it. It's not just a phantom of another mineral that's in there. There's usually multiple minerals in there. And I have some that look like a forest.
Wow.
And what they're meant to do, what the shamans do with these, is they stare into them in their meditation, and it brings you into that world. And that's where your dreams are,
That's
shaman's
amazing.
dreams.
So how did you manifest all of this? We've seen the videos of it starting as a shell, seeing these doors open, seeing just the flooring and the white ceilings, just totally clean. How did this all come to fruition for you?
So when I ended up moving up here to Connecticut with Tina, she had to twist my arm to get up here because I had nothing and I didn't want to live off somebody, and it was bad enough I was in my ex's house, but that was the only way to stay connected with my daughter, and I knew that, so I had to swallow my pride. So when I came up here, I started obsessively reading. I got into the organ, and I was making organ, and Tina said, listen, I have a house, I pay for it, whether you're there or not, I have to pay the bills there. I would love for you to come and live with me. And, if it makes you feel better, do work on the house. You know how to do all that stuff. Work on my yard, mow my grass, so that's what I did.
Cool.
I came up, and she never had time. Tina works like a horse. She just doesn't stop. It's one of the things I love about her is she keeps up. Sometimes she outdoes me, and that takes a lot.
That takes a lot.
That takes a lot.
Tina is always working.
So, the house is like a secondary thing. She spent more time at work than she ever did in the house.
Yeah.
So, she was separated from her husband, and he was okay. We were friends with him too, and I started working on the house. We started ripping out carpets. I started doing the yard, things like that. And I read obsessively. I got up in the morning and I would read, and we live a few blocks from the beach. So I was never a big beach person, but I turned into one. I would go down there and I felt such peace. And I'd go down there and I'd meditate every morning. Obviously, if it was raining, I didn't go down. I would usually go out in my backyard. But I started meditating and reading. And Dr. Wayne Dyer was a huge part of my healing process. I wouldn't as much say it was part awakening, because he opened my mind to other things than what I was programmed my whole life to believe. I was brought up in the Catholic Church, and obviously we go to school and you get programmed.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Right.
Until you can free yourself out of that, you have to do a lot of deprogramming. So that's, I guess, where I was at, was deprogramming my mind and starting to open up to other possibilities, because I was on this timeline and I wanted to find another timeline, because this was not the timeline. I didn't want to be sick. I didn't want to be not working. I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to be homeless. I didn't want to be any of those things. So as I started reading, Wayne Dyer started to open me up, and somebody turned me on to Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you ever heard of Esther Hicks. Oh my God. So Esther Hicks, when I first listened to her, I couldn't wrap my head around what she was saying. It was like listening to something that was Chinese that I had no idea and I did not understand, and it made no sense to me whatsoever. So my friends kept saying, you got to listen to Abraham. You got to listen to Abraham. If you're onto this, and I was reading Eckhart Tolle. I was reading Neil Walsh.
You read a lot, huh?
Yeah, I was obsessed with books, which was funny because I never liked reading. Didn't like reading, didn't like movies. The only thing I would keep my attention span was like a sitcom type of thing, Golden Girls or something like that. I like to laugh a lot.
Yeah.
So I did all this reading, and it took like another year or two before I got back in. I listened to Abraham again, and then I started understanding it and grasping the concepts of law of attraction and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent about 5 years on the beach up here, and I was doing like little expos and shows with the organ. I made organ like almost every day, and unless I was having a bad day, I wouldn't do it because they didn't want that in my organ. So I always made sure my mood was set right, and I had other things that I was doing. And I started, all that reading and research and meditation, I started learning about manifesting. And of course, at first, you're like, that can't work. That doesn't make any sense. So I started, like a true Virgo, testing.
Yeah.
So I go, okay. So it's basically saying that I have this bad attitude, and that's why I'm bringing in all this, because I feel sorry for myself. I don't understand, and I make up every excuse to stay in the same vibration.
Right.
So I have to change my vibration. So I said, so let's try this the first day. I'm going to try. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to work myself up and be angry. And I'm going to get in my car, and I'm going to go out and run some errands and see how my day goes. And I did. I sat there. I thought about every crappy thing that ever happened to me. And I worked myself up into such a tizzy. I was just literally pissed off at the world. Didn't want anything to do with the world. And then forced myself to go out on errands. It was bad.
I can imagine how bad that was.
Everything was bad. Everything. Like, I can't even tell you. I tripped over things. I dropped things.
Forgot things.
Forgot. People cutting me off in traffic. People being nasty to me in the store for like no reason. I would do like walk in a store and somebody was just like had an attitude.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see that play out. Now I want to see the opposite. So that night I sat down and I meditated. I cleared all that energy out. I said, okay, I'm going to clear it. I saw it. I observed it. Now I want to try. I'm going to set my intention for tomorrow. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to wake up and everything is going to be great. And I'm going to feel loved and I'm going to feel, all good things. So I went to bed that night. I woke up in the morning. Lo and behold, I woke up in a good mood. It was like
Who knew?
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, I am in a good mood. I was taking care of the dogs. I put on music. I was dancing with my big Malamute. Now he's too old to do it, but he used to stand like a bear on his hind legs and dance with me in the kitchen. And, just had a really good morning, really happy.
Is that a dog? That's a dog.
Yeah, my Malamute. Yeah. Cody, my Malamute. So he, sorry.
That's okay.
Getting into him again. So, I did all this stuff at the house. I went out and I sat next to my big white oak tree and I talked to him for a few minutes and grounded myself and I felt grateful and I just I was thankful for everything. I was thankful for the dogs. I was thankful for that tree, for its energy, and thankful to be alive, thankful to be waking up and, just really had a lot of gratitude that morning. And then I'd go out and run my errands. And people would hold doors for me. People would compliment me. It's just like all these nice people letting me in traffic, which there's places, in New Haven, West Haven, they do not let you
know
in.
That, yes.
But Northerners are not nice about letting people in traffic.
No.
But
wow.
yeah, everything just went really good. And I want to say one of the times that when I was testing, because I had to do it several times, because my guardian angel is up there like this. Like, again, we have to show you again, because I had to do it not once and twice. I had to do it 30, 40 times to see if I was going to keep getting the same result.
How long did that take you?
I was doing it for like 2 months, on and off. And I kept telling Tina, like, on my good days, Tina would go home and I was like, guess what I did, manifest today, or guess what I did today.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, manifestation isn't always a thing, like a material thing.
Right.
You want to manifest. The best way to start manifesting is manifest you. Like, manifest your feelings. If you're the type of person that has bad day after bad day after bad day, start manifesting a good day or a good feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so how do you manifest? Do you think of those things?
You set
Write things down?
Writing is great. Doing like a journal, even you start, like, you say, okay, I'm going to start watching these manifestation series with Michelle, and I'm going to start a journal now.
Ooh, good idea.
And every week when we go over things, I'm going to take notes and start to apply it. You have to remember, though, like, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict, okay? I liked quick fixes. If I was having a bad day, I like to take a pill and be good in 20 minutes. That's not the way manifesting is. Once you get really good at it, like, I can manifest quicker now, but nothing is instant, because you have to set your vibration. It's how fast you're going to learn how to set your vibration to get it. So, you know, we were doing those shows, and when I tell you I was poor, like, I didn't have anything, and I had too much pride to ask Tina to get anything. You know, when we were making the organ in the beginning, like, I would go into Home Depot and buy little things, nuts or washers, and make things out of them to be able to put a charm in them. Like, I didn't have the money to go buy that stuff, and I didn't want to ask Tina for anything. So I would have to manifest things. And, like, one of the things that really stood out when I first started manifesting, I wanted an organizer, because I'm a Virgo and I have to have things in its place. And I had, like, boxes with all my stuff in it. And I wanted this 4-drawer little organizer, plastic thing. So I said something to Tina, and she goes, well, we'll go over to the store and see how much they are and what they're running. So we go over there, and it was like $40, $45. Just didn't have it.
Yeah.
There was nights me and Tina were eating macaroni and cheese, because that's all we could afford to eat. And she's like, I can't spend it on that right now. And I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. It'll come, and I'm not going to worry about it. So that was the attitude that I left with. And 2 days later, I pull out of my road, and I make the right, like I make all the time to come here. And I go up about 2 blocks, and it's garbage day. And I look over, and there's the 4-drawer plastic organizer that we just looked at in the store.
No way.
With plastic still on it, the tag still on it, and the wheels in the top drawer, like how you buy it from the store. And I passed it, and you know me, I go, no fucking way. There's no way that just happened.
Impossible.
And Tina teased me. She calls me Sanford and Son, because that's what I used to do, is go pick their stuff and make cool stuff with it.
Yeah.
So when you pull out a road where this neighbor of mine a few blocks away, you can go straight and kind of do this triangle to come back up.
Yeah.
And I whipped it around, came back up, and I pulled over, and I just stood there and looked at it, and I go, how is this even possible?
Wow.
And I looked up, and I said, thank you. And I go, you have me sold, and you have my attention now.
2 months later, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It took about 2 months doing that. But you have to keep it consistent. You know what I mean? And you have to be grateful. Your imagination is one of the keys. You know, people use the word visualization. There's people that can't visualize, and I didn't know that. Sometimes people don't visualize in picture. They visualize in feel. They go in their imagination. They can get feelings and things like that.
Okay.
Which feelings, that's a part of it. Emotions is energy in motion. That's what emotion means. It's putting your energy in motion. So when you have a thought, it's not it's not so much the thoughts. You get having positive thoughts and getting that programming started with your neurons. That is a beginning. But like people say, fake it till you make it. That's fine that you want to fake the thought that you're happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. Because you're trying to connect neurons. But you can't say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and meanwhile you're depressed, depressed, depressed. You're never going to manifest it just by speaking that. You have to get to the point where you say it so much that you believe it and you start to feel it. And that is a manifestation. when you start to be able to manifest your own feelings, then you're going to be able to move on to manifesting material things.
Wow, that's so cool.
Now, that story with the organizer, another 2 days, and you guys could ask Tina, another 2 days after I found that, I brought it home and I set it up, and I was so proud of it. And I was so proud because it wasn't about the thing, it was about that I manifested it. And it came to me in the most ridiculous way. Like, that's another thing. You can't say, I want to manifest the lottery.
Yeah.
Because you're not wanting to manifest the lottery. You want to manifest abundance. And the universe knows the quickest path for you to get to that abundance. And it is not through the lottery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're going to try and focus on that's the way you want to get your abundance, you're not going to get there. For one, you don't know what it feels like to win the lottery. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how can you feel it and create it? You don't know what it feels like to win the lottery. So you can't, all you can do is you could start to imagine it and bring it into your mind's eye and start to work up those feelings about it. But it is more of a challenge to directly go after something like that. Instead, what you want to do is focus on the need or want that you have. Don't try to jump from like, I didn't jump from being homeless to owning Stardust in a matter of minutes, hours, weeks, months. It took a while because I had to clean up my whole vibration first. That's where it started, was cleaning up the vibration. So 2 days after finding that organizer, we go to the dollar store. Because, of course, I use a dollar store to get things, to make things, to make my product. So I went into the dollar store, and there was an organizer like this. I still have it somewhere around here. And I have that other organizer I won't get rid of.
I'm taking a picture of it later and posting it for you guys.
It's in my art studio. So I have this little organizer is sitting on a shelf at the dollar store. And I go, T, did you say everything in here is $1? Because different dollar stores are different. And it was Dollar Tree, and I wasn't a big dollar store person. She goes, yeah, everything in here is $1. And I picked it up and I go, how is this $1? How could this be $1? And she goes, I don't know, but if it's here, it's $1. So I bring it up to the register, and the woman goes to ring it up, and it doesn't ring up in their system. No, it's not ringing up. She goes, where did you get this? I said, it was on the shelf back there. And she goes, it's not even in our system. And she goes, I don't know how this is $1. The only one in the store, there was not another one there.
That's weird.
And she had to call the manager. And the manager came out, and she goes, well, if it was on the shelf, it's $1. So she overwrote it and rung up $1. Where did it come from?
I don't know where that came from.
And so now my confidence level is like building, because that was the second thing in a week that came to me.
Wow, a week.
Yeah.
That's so
because I was manifesting that.
I love these play on words that I never knew before.
Oh, yeah.
Like spelling emotion.
Yeah, see, I learned, there is so much that I could get into, and we'll do that in all these weekly things.
Yeah.
But, like, words are huge, and there's actually a quantum language, which I studied for a while.
Oh, that's going to be a week.
And, yeah, that is, that's a long process. Like, I would turn people on to where I learned it from, but you would learn, what words mean and how, like, when we speak, we don't speak right. None of it is, and it's by design. It is by design. All these words, almost every word in the English language is a sigil, and there is things attached to it. So when somebody creates this sigil, which is a word, and we spell it out every time, and we're speaking it all the time, that you're empowering that sigil that person created.
So there's a lot of power behind words, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say is when you start this series, June 1st, every Wednesday, you're going to do 7 o'clock or 7:30?
7:30.
7:30. Everyone go get a notebook, right?
Oh, yeah.
I would say definitely start with a nice hardcover notebook and a gel pen.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
So
I had done the shows and everything, people were asking me to open up a store, especially when we did the local things around here.
Shows, yeah.
And I was like, I don't want a store. I don't want to be grounded. This was like my first freedom, I think, that I ever experienced in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you I went off grid, no bank accounts, no credit cards, I got rid of everything. And I had nothing. Like, nobody even knew technically where I lived. I had no IDs.
Wow.
I got rid of everything. I let everything expire. I cut up credit cards and got rid of everything.
Was this a reset for you?
It basically, I wanted nothing to do with the world at the
Got
time.
it.
I needed to go within, and I needed this. Like, when I tell you this is a matrix, it's an illusion, and you're in control of it. You just have to learn how to control it.
I can't wait to learn how to
And
control it.
yeah, and it's when this place came about, Tina had worked for somebody for 24 years or something like that, and the guy was like a dad to her. Her father had passed away, and this guy was like a dad to her, and he wanted to get out of the business. He went to her, said, hey, you know, do you want this business? You're the one that runs it. He was basically in the background all the time. She ran everything. And she worked for him for 24 years. She was like fresh out of high school, worked for him. And she was like, I would have loved that. You know, they had the same employees for years. They were all like family, which still work for her now. And he was like, okay, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. We'll work it out. I'll hold the mortgage. You can have the business. I'm going to turn it over to you. And
Is that the printing?
this was the printing business. The time came, somebody came along and offered him a bunch of money, cash, and he took it. And he didn't tell Tina. And basically, it got dumped on her, and within 1 week, she had a new boss that was a horrible person. He's a trust fund baby that he tanked like 6 or 7 businesses in Connecticut. He took them over and tanked them, and he was basically doing that to this one.
Wow.
So she had to watch everything she worked for. This guy just tank it because he didn't care.
Yeah.
And whatever his deal was, it's hard to believe somebody is that incompetent, but it could be. I don't know. She ended up wanting to leave. I was like, go open your own place. And she goes, I can't do that. I don't know if I have the credit. She goes, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't even have a place to do it. I wouldn't have any employees, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just do it. You can do this. Just do it. And so I would say, hey, you know, why don't we go out and look at buildings today, just for ha-has. So we go out and we drive around and look at buildings. And of course, when you're doing that, you're starting to put action to your thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We started going around and we'd look at buildings and this isn't right. This one's too much money. This one's not in the right area. You know, nothing was coming. And then one day somebody called and said, Tina, you got to check out this building. It used to be a print shop, screen print shop. And she goes, where is it? And she found out it was this building. So we came to the building and we're looking at it and we're like, ooh. It had been empty for a long time. It was sketchy. The liquor store wasn't there. We weren't up here. So the whole building was vacant except for the dentist office.
Got it.
And like there was a line of garbage cans in the back that homeless people were living in during the winter months. And so we got here and we were like, oh my God, I don't know about this. So they let us in the building, and the first is the main office where Diane, Tina's mother, is right now. And we walked in there and it was so disgusting. And I'm like, this is bad.
Yeah.
And we walked through there, but then you went into this warehouse and it was nice. And it had this nice vibe to it. And I was like, T, I could totally see you here. It had like a loft office for the art department that overlooked downstairs, and it's just like, it was just a really cool place, and I had enough room to build the rooms we needed, build the offices, and the main warehouse part where you go out where all the machines are now, it was huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the place, this is it. And the advantage I think Tina and I both had with both of these businesses is we were invested together. even though the screen print is not my business, that is Tina's. I don't stick my nose in her business. She runs that. That is her gig. That's her employees and stuff like that.
Yep.
I don't put my nose in, and she's like that. I run this. Stardust is mine. I run this my way. She helps me. I help her. Yesterday morning, I was down there folding shirts and bagging shirts, when we have to help each other, we help each other. But we helped each other manifest at the same time.
Wow.
Because I sat there, Tina was very scared. She was scared to sign loans. I'm like, jump off the cliff. And I think, one of the, more intense arguments that me and Tina have ever had, we don't argue that much. We'll bicker, of course, every couple bickers.
Yeah.
We bicker back and forth. We aggravate each other sometimes. And, we don't really fight. But it got so intense. Tina was fighting it so bad. And I could see it. I had this thing where I could walk into a place and I see it done. And I saw the whole place, everything done in it. And she was scared. She just, and fear. And she's like, no, I can't do this. There's no way this is going to work. And I was like, T, you are an amazing person that you can do this. There's nothing you can't do. I watched you run that other place and did things that, all these customers, these big accounts were going to her because she would basically create miracles every day and get work out that was impossible to get out.
Wow.
And if you spent a day shadowing her, you would be exhausted.
I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The orders they do, huge. They have huge accounts. I can't even tell you. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of shirts go through that place.
That's so, I've seen,
yeah.
I go to see the baby. I see it. And I'm like, wow,
you
that's
gotta go through
lot.
the back. I don't think you ever been to
I've never made it to the back, but
Yeah.
I didn't even realize how big that space was
Yeah.
when I went down there. And I was like, whoa, this is massive.
So she got that place. That was like I said, it was a big tension between us. And I was like, I didn't care that she was getting mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, do it. I was on her every day. Get that up and do it. Just jump off the cliff. Just jump. Everything's going to be fine. And she finally jumped.
Just like she did with you and the organ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are brought together for lots of reasons, that being one of them.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. I have a question about spirit guides.
Yeah.
Do we all have them? And how do we identify that?
So, you can't put a label on it, like a spirit guide. We all have connection. Some people connect through animals. Some people connect through crystals. Some people connect through the earth. You can connect to any way. I would say we do have guides, but it's what you're going to create your own guide through your intentions. Like the voice that talks inside my head that I've had from when I was a kid, that is my connection to my inner myself. I don't feel like it's a guide. I feel like it's me, and that is my soul talking to me all the time. And that my soul has like a higher perception, and can see things coming, going, and what's happening. And I do, like, one of the most profound meditations I had, I talked to my grandmother a lot. And even when she died, when I was in a dark place, she came to me in my dreams all the time. I would just be daydreaming and she would come and I would start crying as soon as I'd see her or feel her.
Yeah.
And I would kind of just try to bottle up those feelings because I didn't want to deal with it because of the pain of losing her. And she kept coming especially when I got more and more into meditation. She would come and she would never speak to me, and she would smile at me, and I could feel her, and I could feel the love, and that's what would trigger the emotions.
Yeah.
Because I missed it. I missed that, hugging me and rocking me to sleep kind of thing with my grandmother. So she, like, I had this profound meditation though, and I was sitting on a little bridge over some water that I used to go in the woods in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there looking down, and I was talking to the voice in my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand. Because I had a hard time with like deities. And I'm like, I love like Ganesha. But I was brought up Catholic, and I still had that dogma kind of, you know, you're not supposed to worship anything.
Taboo.
Yeah. And so I had a lot of conflicting feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking down, and my grandmother ended up coming in. And at this point, she had started talking to me. I had like this really crazy meditation. She finally started talking to me. And I think it was because I ascended and could actually start hearing her.
Wow.
And when I was sitting there, she came in, and she asked me, do you think that it's me? Do you think that it's your grandmother here with you? And I started thinking, and I go, yeah, I think it's you. Of course I think it's you. I never thought you left me. She said, it's hard for you to understand because you're there and you're human, and you're operating off of your brain that is a human aspect, and it's more like a computer. And she said, what if I told you that I'm a part of you? And I started to think about it, and I was like, but how? And I started having these visualizations that energy always returns back to source. We're not this body. This doesn't go to the other side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My soul goes to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and is a different thing. We, in order to understand the other side, make things tangible in our mind. It's the only way the mind can understand it. If we just said, oh, it's a ball of light, you're not going to wrap your mind around it because you can't understand it, because you're in this experience right now, experiencing physical, tangible things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just energy. You don't understand what energy really looks like. So I started to get these visualizations where when somebody dies, the energy returns back to source. What is source? Source is all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all part of us. So I said, are you telling me that you have kind of returned back to, it's not my energy really, but it's the energy where it's focused.
Okay.
And she was like, no, it's hard, you know, it's hard to have this conversation because I wasn't understanding what she was saying. But the gist of what it came down to was when I was meditating and my grandmother was coming in, I was accessing that part of myself. What do I think about my grandmother? My grandmother is wise. She's filled with unconditional love for me. And I listen to her. So how could my soul get me to pay attention to something and listen? By presenting a tangible thing that makes me listen.
Oh.
So my soul
Okay.
projects my grandmother to talk to me.
Wow.
And what it's doing is, from what I understand from my meditations, is you only use 10% of your brain.
I've heard that.
Okay?
Yeah.
So how do you access the rest of it?
You tell me.
That's how I think. That's my theory, is that's how you access it. So when I want to access, so then, like, it changed that how I perceived Ganesha and Kuan Yin and Buddha and Archangel Michael. So if that's the case, and I've dowsed this and, you know, used my pendulum, and I've done cards, and I've done all kinds of things to try to reconfirm this, that my thinking is going in the right direction, and it keeps confirming it over and over. So, like, when I want protection and justice and power to, like, protect or heal, I call on Michael. Am I opening that part of my brain? You know what I mean?
I mean,
that's what I think.
It makes sense.
My theory is when I want obstacles moved, I materialize Ganesha in my mind, because that's what Ganesha represents. So all these deities and even our ancestors, our ancestors are still a part of us. That's why we are a bloodline. Even like star families, they're not even blood related in the physical realm, but
Star family.
like we are Stardust. That's what we were manifested from. So like you and I knew each other long before here, because that's why when you meet somebody and you feel like you've known them forever and you click with them and you get along with them, it's because you do. You've already done this. You know, you already know it. Like I've met people like out of nowhere that I go, oh my God, I know that person. Where do I know him? Where do I know him? But it's not this lifetime.
Crazy.
And
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is something it's something to meditate on. Like it's some things are hard to explain, because I'm trying to explain a feeling or explain a vision that I'm seeing, and it's not always black and white or something tangible that I can say this, and this.
I think you do a really good job at explaining it. I mean, you were really articulate in how the process works and making our logical minds make sense of this. And just the words, I'm definitely going to get a notebook.
Yeah.
And so when we go into this weekly Wednesday night learning, we're going to touch on manifestation. We're going to anything that is requested, or do you have like a lineup of what you think you want to do?
I like to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
And I believe spirit leads. And for a Virgo, that's very hard to learn how to let go of control.
Yeah.
So we can plan something, and I can't always promise that's what we're going to talk about, because it's whatever comes.
That's true.
Tina and I have to probably paint. Probably tomorrow morning I'm going to paint. We cleared out my daughter's room, which was actually the original room for the organ. We have like a finished basement. And we had this bedroom down there, and that's where my office was before. And then when my daughter got older, she wanted the downstairs. Yeah. Because it was private.
Makes sense.
And she's like, there's a bathroom down there, and there's a bedroom. Why can't I just have that? You know? Typical teenager. I gave it to her. And so we cleared out her room because, you know, she owns her house, married, kids, dogs. She doesn't come up to stay anymore.
That's crazy. How fast they grow, right? Oh my goodness. How old is she now?
She's 20.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Do you want to take some questions?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so let's see. Let's see what we got going on here. Hi, everyone. All right, so now I'm looking on my phone to grab some questions. If anyone has a question for Michelle, just pop it on in the comments. Hi, Pisces Visions.
Pisces.
What's up? Oh my goodness. So enlightening, Michelle. I'm so glad to even have the thank you for letting me interview you.
Thank you for coming in.
Are you kidding me? Any reason to come here?
It's there's so much. It's very hard to get everything out. That's why I'm going to try and make a list. And you know what? I have a whiteboard in there in my office that I'm going to bring home and put in that room. And I'm just going to make a list of things. And that way, if we
Hi, Erin.
sit down and they want to talk, they can pick off the list.
That's a good idea. So we have Love You Too, your favorite crystal from Pixie Bug. We did touch on that. I don't know if fluorite's your favorite, but do you have a favorite crystal?
It's really hard to pick a favorite.
How do you pick a favorite?
Fluorite reminds me of Aurora Borealis, which I love the Aurora Borealis, and I think it's magical. That is probably my favorite stone. I have so much fluorite, but there's other stones that serve other purposes that I'm very attached to, like labradorite. Yeah. Labradorite. I can never say it right. Jenish messes with me. My buddy Jenish. So there's that, and like what is it? Blue tiger's eye.
I know you love.
It makes me drool. Like to look at it. Yeah, Yeah,
I love it too.
But it's but fluorite, I think, is it.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions about interest in why cursive is not taught in schools now.
We'll get into that.
Should we do that for a week?
Yeah.
How about what do you think about Oralite 23 from Pisces Visions?
I love Oralite 23 because it's literally 23 different minerals and one crystal.
Yeah.
So you're getting so much benefit from one crystal. But like I said earlier, you know, working with the crystals, you have to always remember that those crystals are not working for you, they're working with you.
With you.
And, you know, they're willing to work with you, but of course you should always ask.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Crystallization 0928, where do you start? What's a great starting point to learn? What is it you're thinking of learning? Crystallization. I think the cursive thing probably is going to be a whole show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, we'll do a whole thing on words.
That's a great way to kick it off, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we could start with the words and cursive spelling.
Could write a book with the words. Let's see. Energy and manifesting. What's a great starting point to learn energy and manifesting?
There's two things that you should start immediately working on. And one is going to be self-love. Because if you do not have self-love, you're not going to get anywhere. The second thing is to learn how to act and not react. Because every time you react, you're on someone else's timeline.
Oh.
If you say something nasty to me, you're on your timeline over there and you made an observation and you said something. Now, if I react, I jump on your timeline with you. Because I've just reacted to your action.
Wow.
If I don't react and I observe it, and I can literally say, do I want to be over there? Do I want to go play in Julie's playground today, or should I stay over here in Scalbyville?
Scalbyville.
You know what I mean? And when you can learn to control that, and you start acting and not reacting, reacting is one of the worst things you can do, and on any spiritual level whatsoever. And that includes anybody that is trying to learn the craft, manipulating energy. You never want to be in dishonor. And you always want to stand in your own power and your own action. You don't want to be in someone else's power or action. If you go because somebody ticked you off and you think you're going to go curse them, you're in for it, because it is going to come back on you tenfold.
That is good advice.
Because you're dipping into their world.
Like their vibration,
You're
right?
reacting and getting into their energy. So how do you think that's going to play out?
It doesn't sound good.
If somebody's, you got two equal people, and then this person, you jump into they're basically above you. Their energy is stronger than you because you're going into their territory. You're entering their house.
Oh, thanks.
You want to stay in your own house.
I like my house. Yeah. Scalbyville.
Keep your house, Scalbyville.
Thoughts on man-made, this is from Diversion. Hi, Di. Man-made crystals versus natural.
I am partial to natural. I don't think there's anything wrong with man-made as long as people know that they're man-made. When you're working with, like, there's a difference between man-made, like opalite is man-made.
Yeah.
That's like a glass that has been used in China for years.
Yeah.
And it was set with an intention, so I believe that there is power in it and intention in it. Yes. But like, say, citrine has been heat treated, it's still from the earth. And it's what, when you work with a crystal, it's what you want out of it. If I'm working, with this crystal, I could work with it to ground. Some people work with it for protection. So it's not about what it is. It's not about that this citrine is amethyst and it's been heat treated to look orange, or this is a citrine that is fresh out of the ground and not messed with, not heat treated.
Right.
It's still something of the earth, and it depends how you want to. If you think it's more beautiful of an amethyst to be orange, like I have pieces of heat treated amethyst that are citrine. I think they're gorgeous, and I love them in my house, and they make me happy. So why am I going to analyze it? It makes me happy. People complicate things.
They do complicate things.
They complicate things so
You're
much.
right.
It's like, am I holding this piece of opalite? Does it make me feel good? It does make me feel good.
I know,
and my
right?
intention is going into it. Use that. Don't analyze it.
That makes me so
relieved. It makes you. When you hear something like that, it makes you think about where your vibration is. You know what I mean? If you pick it up and you feel good, you feel good. Don't question it.
Yeah.
Don't say, I shouldn't feel good. because
It's
this
not
is
from the
man-made.
earth, or it's aura coded.
Maybe
or it's
the guy that
heat
made
treated.
it is like, Buddhist monk.
Amazing,
that has
dude.
amazing energy. You don't know.
This is so true. I mean, I have a question of my own, and it's kind of does. I think I know the answer to it, but just hearing it from you, when you are getting crystals from someone like yourself, like claiming on lives or buying from the store off the floor, do you feel that your energy transfers through that piece to that person at all?
I think so, and I believe that anybody that buys crystals from anywhere should cleanse them.
Yeah.
Stardust, which a lot of places aren't like here. It's very positive atmosphere here all the time. Is on a rare occasion, I'm menopausal, so sometimes there's some attitudes flying around. But it's always out of love.
Always out of love. I would have never known.
But,
so let's
it's a positive place, but you should always clean your crystals.
You should always clean your crystals. Because I do know a lot of people are attracted to your energy.
Mm.
And your dynamic with the girls, Jackie and Gabby and Tara and Deirdre, and just it's like a family here.
It is.
I love being here.
Yeah.
I love seeing Nick. It's lazy. Hi, Nick. I love the baby, just all these things in this space just feel so pure.
Yeah.
And I think that might attract a lot of people to your lives and into your store. Yeah. So that is cool. So then what else do we have, you guys? Yasmin, I want to meet you guys in person. Well, come here then, Yas. Yeah. Deborah, Michelle handpicked a Labradorite for me, and I know she put intention in selecting it. I'm sure she did. That's Deb Merced.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you work with, NN Nidu. Yep. When you work with a crystal and you ask it, what is the next step?
So you wanna practice like visualization, getting into your imagination. That's why kids have such a huge imagination, because they are fresh here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're not programmed totally yet. It is natural for a child to sit there and imagine. It is natural for me to have a wolf with me everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. That was my imaginary wolf, but it wasn't. It was the energy that I wanted with me. It made me feel safe all the time. So when you're working with crystals and you ask it, the more detail you're going to put into your intentions, the more it's going to work. So if you just pick up the crystal and say, can you help me with my throat today, and throw it on the table, man, probably not. You have to think about what you're saying, and picture what exactly you want from it. That's where you're going to get a better result.
Well, that's good. So putting a really strong intention, a detailed intention into the crystal.
Yep. See it. Like, close your eyes and hold it, especially by your heart, and see it cleansing, or see it helping you. So this is a throat chakra. So see that light blue all around your throat. Put it on your skin. The more you acknowledge the power of that crystal, the more it's going to help you.
Yeah, so give the crystal the credit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we have Pisces Vision wants to know the significance of the cowboy boots. Is there a cowboy, are you an inner cowboy girl?
Oh my God, I am a redneck from upstate New York.
She's a redneck woman.
I am.
She ain't no high class broad.
I still have them. They were actually in that redneck video that I made. Those boots, those are my favorite boots, and I wore them obsessively. I was a bartender, and I wore them nonstop.
That's just your redneck in you.
Yeah, and I love them. Until I got older now, and I don't.
What?
I can't wear those all the time.
Oh my gosh! Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I've seen a cowboy in the background. Is there a cowboy back there? What are you talking? Oh boy, it's Pisces Vision, so
it could be. Oh, maybe here in the store? I love Cowboys.
Well, we love Cowboys. And what else? Oh, yeah, we want Cody Reichling. I keep getting a feeling I need to meet Michelle in person. I'm drawn to her. Same. So, luckily, I live 20 minutes away. Sorry, don't be jealous. But she's in West Haven, Connecticut, so come here.
Take a road trip.
Take a road trip.
You know what's great? Anybody that is actually kind of far from here, but drivable distance, it would be awesome to come up to Connecticut for, like, people don't think about vacationing in Connecticut, but it
Yeah.
is like it is. We have like Hammonasset Beach.
We have things.
Yeah, we have things.
We have things.
If you're into historical stuff, oh my
Yeah.
God, there's plenty of history here.
We do, and we have pizza.
We're what, an hour and a half from Boston. Boston is amazing. So like if you live far away, to come here and get like a hotel and spend like a couple days up in this area, we have places to mine. We have a huge Goshenite vein
Ooh.
through Connecticut. We have, on Hammonasset Beach, you'll find, what is it called? Garnet sand.
Garnet sand?
Yes, I have a bunch of it. I
Really?
love it. Yeah.
That's
It only comes up
cool.
on like 75 feet of Hammonasset Beach.
Teeny says she'll just sleep on my couch. You're welcome to. You're welcome to. Okay, so Pisces Visions has a question about Herkimer diamonds. Makes her feel physically ill.
Wow.
Any idea?
Herkimer diamonds are very powerful diamonds, and it comes from Herkimer, New York, which was an indigenous part of New York. Like heavily, it all was at one time, but it was
Yeah.
heavily indigenous population. But I've never heard that before.
I wonder if Pisces Visions has any connection to indigenous people.
It could be.
Well, why don't you tap into that?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
would meditate with it and ask it.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a really good idea.
And try to get a response from it.
Pisces Vision also wants to buy garnet sand.
Oh, I will send Pisces Vision some
We
garnet
will
sand.
send you some garnet
You know
sand.
what I'll do this week? I'll send you some, and I have something else for you, Pisces. I have to send to you because you know what's funny?
What?
When we went up to Crystal Shop up at Howard's.
In Huntington?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I bought. I don't want to give it up what it was. So he had these two carvings.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what he had? And he showed me, but they were like too pricey to buy wholesale. I'm like, I can't do that wholesale.
I remember that.
So he only had two, and I was like, well, just give me those two. I'll buy them. And he goes, you want both of them? I go, yeah. I said, I want it for my personal collection. And I told him, I go, the other one's for somebody. I just don't know who it is for yet.
Oh, jeez.
And I figured out yesterday it was for Pisces.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
And it's funny because things like that will happen. Like Spirit will tell me, if I buy something for myself, Spirit will tell me, put one aside.
That happens with one of my friends, Kalani, a lot. He buys from both of us.
Yeah.
And he always will like feel like something belongs to
Somehow.
somebody.
Yeah.
And he'll get like a carnelian bowl, and it was for
Yeah.
somebody. That's crazy. And Mike too.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Pisces Visions is crying. Aww.
I had Pisces gave me a reading yesterday, and let me tell you, I love Pisces Visions.
Same.
She's one of my favorites. She has been on our lives from pretty much the beginning,
Yeah.
and I love her energy. If you could catch her lives, they're a lot of fun to watch.
They're hysterical to watch.
I don't
love
get
it.
to I don't get to sit and watch lives too much. It's like you see, I pop in and then
Yeah.
I disappear for a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
you know,
you
it
guys
depends
are busy.
on timing. Like sometimes I just like get into my couch downstairs and I put on the lives and see who's on, and sometimes the Pisces will be on there and I pop in.
I love watching
But
those lives.
she's amazing. If anybody wants a reading, she's amazing.
She's so good.
She hit like I have a lot going on as usual, and there's just there's a lot. She hit on. It was like crazy.
The first reading I had with Pisces Vision was wild. Now, my husband's father always comes through. He's got a very strong energy. And not only did that just fly through, but like everyone in my husband's family and like no way she could have known any of this. I mean, it's not even my family. It's my family by marriage. It was just sick with it.
I was like, female energy
crazy.
around Charlie, and I have a feeling that it's Charlie's biological grandmother, maternal grandmother, because that's a whole story in itself.
Another week, another Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wow, we have a lot of Wednesdays to do.
Ancestry
DNA.
Oh, right. I swear to God, I just kicked something and nothing's here.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry if somebody was sitting there. There's spirits around Stardust.
I know it. Well, is there anything else?
I'm trying. There was a question that I saw, and I don't know if it was on here or on the other.
I can look and see because I did write down
if there was
some
something
of them.
we didn't go. I remembered it when we were talking about something else.
Oh, there are some good ones. Did you get any training? So I know that you do this.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I started Orgone Energy. I learned about frequency, and I got obsessed with frequency. Now, when I was younger, and I wasn't into this yet, so I didn't really understand it. But like in 1995, when I first got the internet, I had done animal rescue, and that's what I was doing. I did animal rescue for 25 years, and had a bazillion animals in my house, and every weekend and week out, I used to go trap and spay, neuter, all that stuff. So I had at one time 12 dogs, because I would not put a dog down, and they all came to me under circumstances, and they all had problems that nobody else was really going to want to take on. So in it was either 97 or 98, I was on the internet just trying to figure it out because it was all new, you know? And I came across this woman that worked with energy, but that's not the way she explained it.
Okay.
I did understand spirit in me, and I understood my connection kind of by that time. And, you know, I wasn't like totally into it, but I did have some understanding. I knew I was talking to something all the time. And back then, I thought it was, you know, I looked at it more like God, but my perceptions have changed as to what God actually is over the years. So she did this, what she called T-touch with animals. And now looking back, it was manipulation of energy and, you know, healing work that she was doing. So I started doing that. I started following her on the internet. She had like a blog that went on and all these stories and stuff, and she explained how she did it, and it was all about focus. It was her focusing her energy, and I think she referred more to it bringing God through her kind of way, and that I could understand. It made sense to me. So I started the vet that I went to.
There we go.
So my vet that I went to had said he didn't understand how quickly the animals healed. Like they just
That's
healed.
Wild,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know because I went to him obviously for all my needs, and he was like, things that should be taking like a month to 6 weeks to heal are healing up in 2 weeks. And he's like, and I was working with like magnet therapies and things like that. And he said, "Can I ask you, what are you doing? You know, that's because every animal you bring in here heals like so fast." And I started laughing. I go, "I don't want to discuss it. You probably think I'm a witch or something," because it wasn't something that was well known because the internet was still fresh.
Fresh and new, yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, "No, really, I want to know." So I explained to him T-touch, and he goes, "I find that fascinating." And he goes, "I'll have to look into it." But that's what I did, and I did that with animals for years. Never worked on people. Then when I got into the Orgone, I understood frequency so much better. I did a lot of study under Tesla, learned about him, and how he explained frequencies and how they work and things like that. And then Tina bought me a set of metal tuning forks at one point because I really was into frequency, and that's what I was like reading,
Yeah.
and came across forks, and I'm like, oh my God, tuning forks. And I'm like, that's so cool. She found a chakra tuning fork set for me and gave it to me for one of the holidays. And so I started messing with it right away. I'm doing it on the animals. And Tina, like, you know, she wasn't into like Reiki and stuff like that. She never really felt anything from it. So she let me work on her with the forks one night, and I started meditating and sleeping with my forks. I'd put them under my pillow and I'd sleep with them, and I would ask Spirit to show me, how to use them. So I started working on Tina, and Tina started swearing by them.
Oh,
That
wow.
they were changing a lot of things physically and emotionally. And so then I got really excited because Tina doesn't, usually she's like, I don't know, that didn't do anything. That was her attitude all the time. So this actually she got something out of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what started into getting into with the tuning forks, and then the bowls came after that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get trained by anybody. I meditated in my organ chamber all the time. And when we built this place and I built my own healing room and created that space, I would go into the chamber and ask to be shown how to do it.
Fascinating.
And so I would get these, I started using oils with my healings, and I took, Tina does the oils, so she made me blends for each chakra.
Okay.
And so I would put those on the chakras and then tune them. And what it was doing is holding the frequency. The oils hold the frequency. Plus, they already had the frequency because it was for that chakra, and then you're tuning it, and it's holding the frequency so that tuning would last longer. You would continue to be tuned. I would tell people, don't shower till tomorrow, because you go into no resistance when you go to sleep, and you're getting tuned all night. That frequency is hammering, 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 and it's the persistent frequency that changes the unwanted frequency.
Amazing.
That was told to me in meditation.
Okay, so you have the organ chamber here, right?
Yeah.
Where is it?
That's
It's over there.
behind that wall, yeah.
Oh my goodness. And it sounds like almost a full circle thing. Like if that was the first thing you were attracted to,
Yep.
And that's your go-to, where spirit kind of helps
I get more
you
clear
figure
in
things
there.
out.
Because it's funny because Pisces picked up on it yesterday because she got flooded with energy when she was trying to read me because you'll notice I jump around a lot because there's just a lot. There's just so much. There's so much information that all wants to come out at once, and I'm trying to pick and choose, which one to veer onto.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go into the chamber, it clears my head. Like, without me sitting there for 10 minutes trying to clear my head, I can go in there and it almost clears instantly because all the noise stops. Like, yeah, you gotta do.
Can I go in?
Yeah.
I can?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing it. Okay. I would love a clearing. No, you do a good job,
Let me grab
explaining.
that charger.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want
she's
that
gonna
to-
get a charger because the phone is showing that
Yeah,
it's
I need the
dying.
microphone, but it is what it is.
What's that? What are these? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Dawn T asked a question I got for you. Okay, she's plugging in, guys. She's plugging in.
It's gonna reach. Oh, it's not gonna reach. I gotta get another extension cord. I thought this long one
What are
would.
you feeling,
I might do this.
Jessica? She's just plugging her phone in.
Yeah, or it's gonna be going.
Alyssa needs to get tuned.
What's this do? We got a lot of plugs over here.
She can have a guest on this one. I don't know what she's doing over there. Nick is completely unfazed. Yep.
Nick is funny. Nick
Any
is
recommendations?
definitely here because of spirit.
I believe it. Do you have any book recommendations for Care Bear Nurse?
Where are you in your journey?
Where are you in your journey, Care Bear Nurse? You're just starting. You guys are wondering what I'm doing. I'm petting Nick. Don't be jealous. You're such a good boy. Beginning.
Beginning? Wayne Dyer is amazing.
Wayne Dyer. How do you spell the last name?
Dyer.
D-Y-E-R, just like it sounds. So that's an author?
Yeah, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Let me see if because my library's right here. There is one.
She's got quite the
This is a good
library.
one. This is a good one.
We're going to show you some books.
Yeah. A lot of people take out the good ones.
People?
You'll see it. Oh, this is a good one.
Somebody likes to read.
Yeah, this is nice having a library.
I
Oh,
bet.
this is convenient. We want conversation with God. 2 and 3.
I wish I could turn the camera around. She is in a full-on library back there. This place is a wonderland. It is I always say that too. Let's see what we have here.
Okay, so I want to say this first.
Okay.
I take that back.
She takes it back.
Anybody that's first starting,
Mm-hmm.
the first book you actually want to read is The 4 Agreements.
I've heard that.
The 4 Agreements, and you want to keep that book, and even take notes in it, and put the notes inside the book, and wait a year and read it again. For whatever reason, that book evolves with you. Like, you're going to have an understanding from the book, and then you're going to go get on your spiritual path. It helps you get there. And then you do this spiritual path for a year, and then read the book again. You're going to get a whole new perception of that book again.
Wow.
And it does that every time. I've been reading that book like once a year for probably about 7 years, 8 years.
Wow.
It's different every time.
It's different every time, huh?
It makes me see things differently every
I get
time.
it now.
It's a very good book. It's a very simple book, and that's another thing you guys have to understand is this stuff is simple. Don't make it complicated. It's not complicated.
I love
There is nothing
that.
complicated about any of this. It's understanding how your brain works, which that's going to be a major discussion we have to have on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because if you understand the way your brain works, you can totally understand how you manifest. So it's a big conversation, and it's if you guys want to even start looking into it, look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dispenza.
Okay.
Dr. Joe Dispenza did. He's a neuroscientist neuroscientist, I think. And he has done all of these studies, and he brings spirituality. Like, if you're a person that needs the logic, like I had to have, I need the science. He's the one that's going to explain it to you in layman's terms.
Oh.
And he's a neurologist, so he knows,
To write this stuff down for myself.
So this one, this is a good one. Dr. Wayne Dyer, Wishes Fulfilled.
Wishes Fulfilled.
That's a good one. I can see clearly now, I believe was his last book. He does have some earlier books from like the 90s and early 2000s. They're not as good as his most recent before he died stuff.
Oh, he died.
Like, I never get upset. Like, I've never had like any kind of affection for like movie stars or anything like that. Like, never.
Like celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And like, I remember people would be so upset. Go, oh, so and so died. Oh, I'm like, I didn't know them. It's
True.
like, but when he died, let me tell you,
You had a meltdown.
I had a moment. Like,
Yeah.
I felt. I don't know what I felt. Like,
Maybe you felt a connection to.
I did. I definitely had a
Yeah.
connection with him. There was just so much. I think it was because I discovered him at my worst time in my entire life. And I was in such a deep hole of depression that I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't see past not being there anymore. It was so bad.
Wow.
And this is what started turning me around.
This is Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Dr. Wayne Dyer. If you go on YouTube and look up, he used to go on PBS. That was like his gift to the world. He did these public things for like 2 hours talking about all this stuff. And to get some different perception of life, he's very knowledgeable. He was a professor. He was very knowledgeable about like different religions and ideologies. So he's talking about all these things and just kind of tying them all together to show you that it's all the same. All religions start a certain way, You know, so he's bringing the spirituality in, and sometimes he's talking about science, sometimes he's talking about history. He knows a lot of history.
Wow.
This is another great one, Conversations with God by Neil Diamond Walsh, but you don't want book 2, you want book 1.
Neil Diamond Walsh?
Yep. You want to do, this was one of the first times I ever felt normal in my whole life.
Really?
Because I thought it was normal to have that voice in my head, and then everybody told me it was not normal. Like then people made fun of it because they were like, "Oh, what are you, crazy?
Oh, geez.
You know, is something wrong with you, or you have schizophrenia or something?" And I'm like, so I couldn't tell anybody for a long time about it, because if I brought it up to anybody, they thought it was actually like absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the 80s and 90s. It's,
True.
you know, this stuff wasn't, like, the internet really opened all this stuff up for people like me that didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know there was anybody else, because people were like, I don't have a voice in my head, nothing tells me anything. I'm like, are you kidding me? I get, like, all my advice from but Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh did, he has this dialogue with God in his head. He calls it God.
That's his God.
Like, you know, everybody believes something different.
Right. So it could be translated for each individual person as whatever they believe in.
Yeah.
So they're
like, I believe it's my higher self.
Your higher self.
I believe it's like the energy, even my physical body here, it's focused energy. Like something that was the creator, right? You have creator of all. To me, God is everything. It's not one thing. It's not an old man in the sky. God is everything. God is the love frequency that creates everything, which is why that frequency is so important.
Yeah.
So.
The love frequency.
Yeah. That is. That's one of the most important. That creates almost everything, and that's why self-love is so important to have.
And that also is a full circle moment, because you said we can't start anything on this journey without self-love.
You have to have
so
it.
Just start working on yourself first.
Yep. And you have to understand, and you just, everything outside of you, you can't listen to that. Like other people's opinions of you, you can't listen to that, because they are based on the perception that they are looking out of. They're basing it on the vibration that they feel. So why would you put stock in that? If you took a painting, a Picasso painting that really doesn't mean any, you know, it's, whatever. He made weird paintings, right?
Yes.
And you stick it up and you line up 100 people, and they've never seen this painting before, and they say, what do you see? You are going to get a different opinion from every single person, because they're basing it off their vibration.
Yeah.
And you know what? You could bring them back a week later, and they're going to have a different perception, because their vibration's going to change. That's why I continually tell people everything's an illusion on the outside, because it's based off of your vibration. If I work myself up to be in a bad mood and I go on to my day, I am going to perceive bad things all day, because that is my vibration, and is going to match every time. That's that attraction, the law of attraction thing. It's not exactly an attraction thing, it's the vibration that you're carrying, and you're going to keep experiencing that vibration because you're in it.
Yeah.
So letting somebody else tell you that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, that you're not beautiful enough, it's meaningless. It's like they're talking about themselves pretty much, because they're talking about their own vibration.
Yeah. So it's like we kind of the cliche things, or the things that are the sayings that are overused, the phrases that are overused, really are the core of this meaning. Like, for example, if somebody speaks ill of you, that's just a reflection upon of themselves, or how they're feeling. And I do hear that thrown around a lot. So there really is a deeper meaning to that common used phrase.
It's hard to understand, and it's hard to understand it when you're coming from a bad vibration to begin with. Because if you're in a shitty vibration, and somebody's telling you that this person's being mean to you because of your shitty vibration.
Oh, no, I mean the opposite. Like, they're being mean to you because of their shitty vibration.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like if they're projecting onto you.
So people will project.
Yeah.
Because misery loves company.
Yeah.
And the same thing as laughter loves company is on the other side of that spectrum. Like, I like to laugh all the time. You know what I mean? So I like to hang out with people like you that make me laugh.
Yep.
But it's, you are the one that's in charge. And it depends if you want to get on that vibrational disc or not. If they're on a misery disc and you're on a high-flying disc and you're feeling good, why would you want to lower yourself over there? Yeah, that's what I mean. So why even pay attention to it? It's like observe it and go, that's got nothing to do with me. That's got nothing to do with me.
Listen to that. The opinions of others are none of your business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's simple.
It just doesn't, when you get to the point where it just doesn't matter, you have been programmed to think that it matters.
I know. Isn't it
through
sad?
schools, through churches, everybody's judging you. Like, I've read the Bible like many times in different versions of it because I like the information. There is so much to that I could get into too, because the Bible is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, there's so many different meanings. Like, you could look at it, like, say, so the word sin, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean what you were taught it meant.
Okay.
The word sin means unconscious. So now go back and read a couple Bible verses and replace the word sin with unconscious, and look how much sense it makes. The only reason why that Bible is too, that's got a lot of the missing books in it. That is an 1856 Bible, so that's got a lot of the stuff that the church just took out.
Where'd you get that?
Stuff. My dad.
Wow.
So
I always am attracted to that Bible because it's so just there.
Yeah.
And it just looks like
if
it's
you
special.
Read it too, it's just different. That's
different. Interesting, replacing the words. I would love. So there's so many things you can talk about
and
on
even
those Wednesdays.
Like if you took the Bible, if you knew about Admiralty law.
What is it?
Admiralty law. That's the law of the seas. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot to that oh my God, that's a whole other series we'd have to get into. But like I studied a lot of law, which we'll get into that too. But Admiralty law is the law of the seas. There's a reason why the Vatican calls it the Holy See, but they spell it S-E-E instead of S-E-A, the Holy See. They have like Sesqueve trusts. There is so much to this, and if you know all this Admiralty lingo, and then you go and read the Bible, then you understand exactly what it means.
Wow.
Especially the current Bibles, because the Vatican is using the Holy See and the Admiralty law, and that's how it will play out. It's
sin with unconscious.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of different ways you can read the Bible.
Yeah.
It's interchanging. Like if you apply certain things to it, and you can apply physics to it. Like when they talk about the 7 dragon heads and this and that, and they're talking about parts of your body, and people don't even realize it. They're talking about certain points of the body. They talk about your pineal gland, but they might call it something else. But if you understand what they're talking about, you understand what it's telling you.
Like
which is a totally different meaning than what the church teaches you what it meant.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I have 2 final questions for you. They are half mine and half Dante's.
Okay.
Okay. One is, what was your biggest adversity that your practice has helped guide you through? Maybe a personal challenge or personal adversity that you turn to your practice.
Okay, so I have a book written. I have to put the ending on it and finish it off. Just finding time. Years ago, I had a police officer pull me over, and he basically wanted me to do things with him, and I refused. He made my life a living hell for about 15 years with him and his friends. He was fired eventually. I sued New York with no lawyer. I did it all myself, which is that whole studying law stuff. That whole trauma, it was for 15 years. So it created, you can imagine the vibration it created in me.
Wow.
There was a lot of fear, which fear is one of the lowest vibrations that you can have. Resentment and just hatred. towards, because it wasn't just him, it was all his friends that just came at me. And, I couldn't pull out of my driveway without being pulled over and told I was going 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
At 10 feet from my driveway. So there was a lot that happened. And I couldn't get over it. Could not get over it. I would get so angry. And I used to say when I was fighting these cases, court case after court case, I'm like, because I didn't agree to do something with this officer, he has destroyed my life and you're all allowing it to happen. That was what, it made me so infuriated, because the justice system is a joke. It is a joke. Can't even. But the infuriating feeling that I had, just towards cops, towards governments, judges, any of that stuff, was eating me, from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And it caused so much anger inside me that I couldn't get out of my own way. Mm. This is what healed all that. The information that I learned, which is why I wrote the book first, and I needed to get it out of me what happened, because I'm not a person to talk. I don't go out and just start a conversation like this. Sharing with you guys is different. My personal life, it's not something I go and talk about. It's not something I went into therapy to talk about. You know what I mean? Yeah. I kept it all bottled inside me for so long, and it just festered in me. And through a lot of the stuff that I learned, I got empowered. And the last straw was I was pulled over. The cop dislocated my shoulder for no reason. It was on camera. And I had it. And, I ended up studying law obsessively for 15 to 20 hours a day. And I learned to write my own briefings, my own case, file my own stuff. And I went to federal court and fought for 4.5 years against 5 lawyers. And I made fools of them almost every single time.
Boom.
Yeah. And I got my power back.
Couldn't do it.
And that gave me my power back.
That's amazing.
And I actually have a very good relationship with the police around here.
I was going to ask you, how's that now for you?
I love the cops here.
Enforcement, yeah.
And I just don't have that problem anymore. But you saw it, because of that resentment. I could seriously drive into New York and see a cop, and it would pull me over because I was constantly carrying that vibration.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was the most ridiculous things. If you seriously went over my old record, I got pulled over for a license plate laid out, a reverse laid out of, how did you know that while I'm driving down a road?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the most ridiculous things I got pulled over for.
You just got hammered for a while, and you changed your vibration, all as well.
All of that changed.
That's amazing. That's a big one.
Now I drive 80 and nobody bothers me.
We know how you drive. I followed you to Massachusetts.
That was Tina. She's just as bad.
Who drove to Chicago then?
That was me.
Last but not least, okay. There was one about, so you do, in these rooms, you do healings, you do tunings, you do alignments. Was there someone, hold on, let me start over. Was there ever someone that you couldn't help? And how'd that go?
I've had challenges, but it always worked. I have many more tools than I used to have. Mm-hmm. So I had a couple people that took literally hours or multiple sessions. Now I never have that problem anymore.
Okay, that's good.
And what I mean about a multiple session is I would work on them until I was so exhausted that I would stop. It would be 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And we would just take a break for a little while, and I'd have to, kind of power up a little bit.
Yeah.
And go back in. I won't stop and send somebody home until they are cleared.
You talking about one day?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
The longest I ever worked on somebody was about 7.5 hours.
Do you have any appointments the rest of the day? Are you? I'm just saying. What? Okay.
7.5 hours, and that was literally an exorcism we did.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's
that
a
was
whole nother
crazy.
Wednesday?
That's a whole nother Wednesday.
I'm going to physically be there.
Yeah.
All right, so do we have any last questions for Michelle? Okay. Crystallization. I totally believe in string theory and energy. But it does not break me. That's good.
Yeah.
Our words manifest our reality. That's Gabby. They love our
It's
Gabby.
the words, but you have to apply the emotion. That is the energy. That is putting energy into motion. You can say words all you want, but until you apply the energy to those words, which is your emotion, that's
so
what
E
puts
for
it.
energy.
Yep.
M for motion.
Yep.
E motion.
Yeah.
Just remember it like that. That's amazing. Doge says this has been such a great interview. Great job to you both. Aw. Diversion says yes. Has Michelle been able to forgive the police officer?
Yes.
Yes. That was a quick yes.
He actually passed, and I've actually
did?
had conversation with him on the other side.
Really?
Mhm.
Another Wednesday. You guys need to tune into these Wednesdays. This is going to be really good. This is going to be really good. My love, Diversion says, oh, for Doge, clearing panic attacks and nonstop anxiety. Help.
I'm going to give you guys a quick secret that you can do.
Ooh, we got a secret coming.
Because I know a lot of people suffer from anxiety.
Oh, I'm excited to hear this
So we're
myself.
going to teach you a quick trick.
Quick trick for clearing
And
anxiety.
I did this right before we came on here because,
Okay.
like I said, I have issues sometimes when I'm doing things like this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a camera person, and I am not a... it was a lot to get me to do this whole thing. Like, when I tell you I'm not. I hate being on camera. I hate talking like on camera because I talk funny sometimes.
You did awesome.
But, so... Here's the trick. You're going to grab 2 stones that you resonate with. I chose rose quartz because it's for self-love, which I highly recommend using rose quartz. They have a frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in your body, right here in the back of your head is your pineal gland.
Okay.
And right under that pineal gland is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from the pineal gland. It runs down behind the throat chakra.
Okay.
It runs into the heart. It runs through the solar plexus, through your sacral, and it ends at the root.
Got it.
So you have this nerve that runs right
Wow.
down through.
Okay.
It's back on your your cords. It's in back of your vocal cords.
Yeah.
Your vocal cords, your sound is your own unique healing frequency. That's why you were born with it. That is your unique frequency to heal yourself.
Wow.
So there's 2 ways you could do this. You can take your hands, take this part of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
There's like indents right here
Okay.
on the sides of your trachea. Yeah. You have your trachea that goes down.
Yeah.
There's some indents right here.
Oh yeah, like near your
Yeah.
lymph nodes when you're looking
Yeah.
for a sore throat.
So you just put your hands like that, apply a little bit of pressure, not much. You take a really deep breath. You're vibrating
Mm-hmm.
that whole nerve right down through your chakras and applying healing to all your chakras.
Wow. So,
Do that every day. I do 13 because 13 is my number. I tell people a dozen. Take a dozen deep breaths and hum it out. You're going to notice, if you do that every night, for one, you're going to notice a lot of changes. You're going to notice better sleep. And if you do that every night, you're going to be able to hum longer and longer. It's one of the most, it's one of the best things you can do for your whole body.
love that.
So now where the stones come in.
Mm-hmm.
So say you're focused on something, right?
Yeah.
So I want you guys to focus on self-love. Grab 2 pieces of rose quartz. It's a cheap stone. And you take that. They're going to sit in those right alongside that throat, your trachea. Put them in the palms of your hand.
Stop running.
Don't run away.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in the palms of your hand, and then,
So,
yep,
like this.
yep. And then you're just going to apply a little bit of pressure so you're vibrating with it.
Yeah.
You can feel the vibration
I can
on your
feel
hand.
it when I talk.
So you're going to do again 13 breaths. So you're going to you hum it until you can't hum anymore, and then you're going to take another deep breath, and you keep trying to do it as long as you can, and you'll see it'll get longer and longer. When you do that with this, you're not only dragging your own vibration down that vagus nerve,
Yeah.
you're dragging the vibration of the stone, and you're dragging all your intention down it.
Wow.
So self-love. So this is like a great trick to do. And for anxiety, I have had clients that swear by this, that have anxiety issues, and they have their stones. They carry them with them everywhere. They'll go into their car somewhere private, and they will hum when they start getting panic attacks or anxiety.
That sounds like
it takes it away almost instantly.
Wow, that is great.
So there's that. And here's one more exercise you guys should try. Before you go to bed every night, when you're getting ready for bed, you're brushing your teeth or whatever you do, putting your creams on. when you're ready to go to bed, look in the mirror and not just look at yourself in the mirror, look in your eyes, dead in your eyes at that pupil, and say, I love you.
Aww.
Just do that and watch the reaction you get. Watch when you first do it.
Wow.
Watch the reaction that you get. This is gonna be the first time that you ever looked dead into your soul and said, I love you, and acknowledged your soul. It'll be the first time.
So what are we all doing tonight? Everyone
And
have their tumbles ready?
Do that every night.
Wow.
And that is going to help with your self-love frequency. Because once you start acknowledging your soul and you start working with it, just like a crystal, the soul's not working for you. It's there waiting for you to want to work with it.
Wow.
And that's, same
That's
thing
amazing.
with the crystal. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, Michelle, that has been
And we'll probably go over those
amazing.
couple things every Wednesday, because there's going to be new people every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And those couple of things are so important to really start. Like the self-love, and it's hard. Wait till you do it. I want to hear how you guys, what happened.
So
when
should
you
we
do
get
it.
should we DM you? And let you know how it's going?
Well, we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Oh, that's a good idea. All right,
June
so it's gonna be
1st.
live. And
June 1st. So you guys got like a week from, what's today?
I don't know.
Thursday. So a week from next Wednesday.
A week from next
Because
Wednesday.
I'm redoing that room.
Yep.
I'm busting my butt trying to get ready. I want to get the whiteboard put in. Because sometimes I can give you a visual that'll make more sense than
That's a good
words
idea.
that I'm using.
And are we doing this on TikTok or Instagram?
It'll probably be on TikTok.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
If I can set up the Instagram, because I could bring home the work phone and then have Insta and TikTok going at the same time. I'm going to see if I can get that set up, which I have to buy another microphone. We had to turn this microphone off because I had to plug in.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice job. Nice job, Michelle. Thank you guys all for joining us. This was so much fun and so informative, and it is just the beginning. So
I am excited that we're going to be doing these again.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with you guys and talking to you guys, and I would love to help you guys any way I can. So
yeah, it's not just about selling crystals. It's
Yeah.
it's about giving.
this is what I started my TikTok for, and it was to help people. So we got sidetracked for a little while,
We have a lot of fun together.
and yeah, but I couldn't. I wouldn't have the base I have right now, and I wouldn't have you around if I didn't have my live sales. So there's a reason for everything.
There is a reason for everything. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you at Stardust next live, which is when?
Today is it's Thursday. Tonight on Instagram.
Tonight on Instagram at 7 or 7:30.
7 tonight.
7
and then
tonight.
7 on TikTok tomorrow.
Perfect.
All right, guys. I love you. Have a great night. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it.
Turn it off.
I don't know how to do
Is that
it.
the...
Here, I don't
Everyone's
know
probably
how.
laughing.
I don't get it.
It's okay.
See, Tina does this, not me.
All right, this is ended.
Okay, how do you end this one?
I don't know. We're still not ended. Are we live on two things? All right, so we're gonna end this.